Good evening, this is Beaty-Coffey of the Ministry of Uncover No More. I've just had to back out of several different uncovernomore.blog articles. That means I deleted them. And delete several different videos that I was going to put up. And now today, and then I got very drained of stamina. And this has happened to me many times. I also ended up putting on my only public X account, formerly Twitter, a representation, the GIF that I've used before, and it's a death angel in a red robe in the ocean at a bridge. Just knew to do it. Awoke from my first of 2 naps, and on Instagram found out that KP Yohannan, Gospel for Asia's KP Yohannan, died of a sudden cardiac arrest in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in a hospital. He was taking his morning walk yesterday and had an accident, but though they did not release, in what is on my blog, they did not release the details of what happened during the accident. He was on a country road. He normally just walks on the grounds of their secure place. I'm not going to get into things that I've heard about the organization of Gospel for Asia, because there's been tax issues and whatnot. The other truth today and yesterday is that my father turned 90 years old. And we, in our house church, story, in my first volume of testimony, Gospel for Asia is there. We went, the men in our church group went to Gospel for Asia and served. Some of my older children went. It was kind of a youth group thing that some of the men did, and of course many of us were large family people, so we moms were staying with the younger children during something like that. And that's the old time religion side of my life. I'm the woman whose uncle that built my house, that I had 7, from which I had 7 of my, no, excuse me, 6 of my 10 children were sourced from that property. Not always at the property, that was only once, accidentally. There were a couple of home births as well, but they were planned after the accidental one. But I've had some in the hospital as well to take care of me as the mom, since I was an older mom at that point. My youngest child was born when I was 42, so great care was taken for my physical body, and and I'm grateful for that, for the insurance that we have because of where my husband works, my partner works. So here we are again, because Uncle Paul and my dad built the Heavenly Door property, where house church and everything went forth. And I was disinherited from it because my mother's family betrayed me. And some other things happened that I'm covering in much love. And Paul, I believe it was 2009, 2010, 5 days after my birthday. It's also in my first book. Died of something I'm not going to talk about here. But he had prostate cancer. And then my mother, I think it was 10 years later, 9 years later, died on the exact same day. I had put her in a place where for 10 days she could have her family visit and everything as she was dying. It took her 10 days to die. I had spontaneously found the disinheritance. That means I found it while I was taking care of my mother who was dying. We tried to get a lawyer in to fix it, who refused because my mother had dementia. I'll never know what happened to my mother. I'll never know what she was forced to believe about me. I was framed in a most unhealthy way. It was very immoral what happened to me while I was working and writing my books of testimony and everything. And now we've got KP Yohannan, who is also in my first book of testimony. Choosing on my dad's birthday or the day before. I don't know if my dad was born on May 8th or 9th anymore. Today's the 9th. Choosing to take a walk on a country road instead of in his complex safely, and being met with an accident. All I know from the news reports is that they were working on his lung. A lung must have collapsed or something. But then he had a sudden cardiac arrest, which is how my brother died, but it was from a heart defect. Nonetheless, yes, I watched my brother collapse head on, break his tooth. First time. He was revived. It was considered a miracle in the Cultish Covenant Church movement. But then he did it again. Dad gave him permission. He told his sister, I love you. And he did that. And I've seen him on this side many times now. Because I get my dead back according to Hebrews 11. Getting my dead back, Hebrews 11, means that deaths match up, I guess, because I've got a lot of those. This is not a video about death. None of mine are, being who I am and what I've testified. But today, what I was trying to do was read a poem. And I have a very sober word. I have been seen in the Starbucks that is part of our town here today. I again came home completely drained and then found out KP Yohannan was met with an accident. And it's my dad's birthday and the day after. Okay. I happened the past few days to read a poem by Robert Frost that is 100% accurate to how life used to be, how it was before most of the generations on the earth in the United States now would have ever understood it being. Because life is so very different now for various reasons, not just one or two. I feel I feel like I'm probably as much of an alien to even some of my own children as my own children probably feel like an alien to the recent past when I was born in 1966 and President Kennedy was being assassinated like President Lincoln, you see. And so it's very difficult to know what to do with these histories no matter which age we are. We just keep living, and that is where this poem is, if you will, a testimony to how some things never change. And I want to encourage us to come past the differences in our lives and understand what a waste of time it is to fight, to have fights amongst ourselves, when the truth is we love each other deeply. The truth is this: I don't know why the fighting continues in many of our lives. Fighting, somebody else in my life calls it fighting. I call it iron sharpening iron. Nonetheless, there's a lot of stress and strain on relationships. I believe it's financial, and for instance, COVID, the stresses of that, 911, the stresses of that, societal, historical happenings, actual happenings that we struggle with knowing what to do with on a day-to-day basis. And this is an election year where there's criminals vying for the White House. So I want us to remember, and I want us to know that love is real this election year. We had a beautiful eclipse this year. And indeed, Robert Frost, I have another poem that I'll be presenting later. But today, with KP Yohannan passing to the other side, okay, this was April 8th, 2024, the eclipse in April. I was reading The Mountain, and it's beautiful. It's such a beautiful poem. But I'm going to read today with feeling, but not. I'm going to keep my voice from entering the emotion of my death testimony. Is death greater than life? Sometimes it feels that way, doesn't it, young people? Particularly if you've met someone like me and you know that there's a tumultuous story underneath all of that, and you don't know what to do with me any more than you know what to do with my actual in real life story. And I stand on the other side of that chasm saying, let us just not worry about it, and let us get to know one another again. I had one of my adult children before I knew that KP Yohannan was in the corridor of death to life and life to death. I had her come to me in spirit. I'm sorry, Mom. I was too hard on you. Yes, I know. I really didn't say anything to her. I just was like, I'm sorry. I was hard to deal with too. I think that's what she said to me in spirit. I'm sorry, Mom. I was so hard to deal with. I'm sorry, daughter. I was so hard to deal with. And we are such beautiful people, all 7 of my daughters and I. And part of the reason that my daughter was here like that in a very fluid situation with KP Yohannan going up and down, with his spirit ascending, is because I got a mammogram today. And I had to answer questions about cancer in my family, and it is extremely obvious that my dad's family has been hit with cancer. And, life goes on. So does death. I suppose what I'm put here to do is help us see that we will be with together on the other side too. It's a mystery until it's not, and we are definitely making life joyful for one another, and we are sorry. We are sorry when we were difficult to deal with in some of our transitionary time. All 10 of my children and I have been in a huge transition where we can basically have nothing to do with the church that we had fellowship in, the church being Protestant, no matter where we were. We always got along. We had a good time. My children did youth groups, all of that. And it's very confusing when there's a distance that goes on, and the adults start having a hard time with each other. misogyny is a key problem in the Protestant church, but that's not the only thing, because I'm seeing a lot of reports of pastors and elders and whatnot that have raped and molested and has misused children. So, what is happening to us in our worlds? Well, I'm going to stop the incense. One of my daughters gave me this dish, isn't it? Okay, you can't see it. Let me gently pick it up. There it is. Gave me the dish for my birthday. It's just such a blessing. This little pot is for the cones. So this stick incense is it's for that. The little piece that the incense is in, and it makes it easier to put it out, so that if you put too much of that incense in any room, your eyes are going to itch and whatnot. To get things high enough that you could actually see my tall candle, because when I posted the blog article for Mr. Yohannan, I've already lit a tea light just outside the door on a piece of furniture of mine that was my mother's, and posted the information. This is a blog article that I just deleted 3 different articles from. There's going to be a lot of poetry on it. I really can't explain this article. It's going to blow everything of my abilities as far as coherency in the kind of blogs that I write out of the water. I am cursing rape, incest, and patriarchy. And the thing that is interesting is one of the blog articles that I was trying to read this poem, and I'm going to actually read the whole thing today. If my video stops, I will just make a part 2. So I will just simply finish the poem. I couldn't finish the poem. It's beautiful, but it's difficult. It's a difficult poem, and it has to do with a father and a daughter. My love life. All right, so rape starts with R, incest starts with I, and patriarchy starts with P, and we all know that means rest in peace. But the people engaging in rape and incest and patriarchy will not rest in peace. This is Archangel Tara. I'm not going to varnish your sin, your immorality, what you're doing in the Republican Party. Your judgment is going to be your judgment, and you could make different choices, but you're not. It's all your money and all your power. You're wicked, and it's obvious. And I'm staying back now. I'm standing back. This that happened to KP Yohannan is another invoking of me to be very careful. Now, it's just ridiculously obvious what's going on in our government. Let this poem of Robert Frost's sink in, I beg you. We must return to the simplicity of morality. And I will say it as I was going to say it in some videos I was going to release, so I just deleted them. I said, wait a minute, I gotta finish this out a different way. I was actually trying to keep my videos 10 minutes so that I could post between TikTok and YouTube. And I'm not gonna do that today. This is a very heavy day for Tribe Judah elect. The salvation of our empathetic side is going to be through the mother-daughter and then father-daughter relationships. Sons are going to need to take a back seat here. We are devoid of empathy now. And I was talking about in these blog articles that I was trying to release, I was talking about how we are denatured. We have been dehumanized by what I'm talking about. Very much so. Social media has a large part to play in this, but it's not the only part to play. I've heard many stories of young people having to deal with very difficult politics in homes where they need to work and they need to enjoy their lives. They need to be careful and be in balance, but they really don't have anyone nurturing them, listening to them. And so it's I think Generation X, it is our job to be faithful in our homes, but also to be faithful in our places where we are seen. And that's what I've been called to for quite some time. But I am today, with what is happening with Gospel for Asia, I am having Oak Hill, Texas closed to me for the most part. Again, I was feeling pressures to go back to church and whatnot. And that's just what they are, as pressures. The door is being closed again. That doesn't mean I won't go to Oak Hill. It means I will go unannounced. My testimonies are now undercover, but I check occasionally close up. Do you remember I testified this? Yes, they remember immortals showing up around me and us talking and having some amazing conversations and miraculous conversations. Rest assured those continue. But they are going to be completely undercover. I'm going to be much more careful with what has happened just now with KP Yohannan. Was he led to do something different? It may be my dad walked him up to heaven. I love lives. That's the kind of author I am. And that's the kind of thing that nobody understands but my people from the other realms that are here and that have shown themselves and continue to be around me. Lest you forget, this is the third volume. This is where the Double Moon's Prayer Initiative is. And again, the eclipse was the moon eclipsing the sun. I'm the moon goddess, Trageda elect. I'm not saying I'm the only one, but I do have to be careful here because I have never met anyone like me. So I don't know what to say here except for testify the truth and then back away and disappear again. Home burial. I will type Dad's story and mine. How we came to the decision to do what we did for his burial. Because I put a note above this, tell Dad and my story with home burial. I'm just going to read the poem, then I will see what I decide to put on this blog article, but I can guarantee you one thing that is going on it, and that is the cursing of rape, incest, and patriarchy. My dad had some trouble with misogyny. He was very careful not to interfere with my life, though. And as a matter of fact, he wanted me to get a career. Instinctively, my dad did not want me to become his mother. And I had almost twice the children that his mother had. And my life has scars in it that are reminiscent of Era Davis Beatty. I turned into her 2 days ago without anybody being able to tell. Yes, it metaphysically hurts and there are tears and nobody can tell I turned. I just know when I did it. So I didn't say anything to anybody. And now I'm finding out after my first nap of 2 because I'm drained of metaphysical energy on a day like today. That KP Yohannan was met with an accident, most likely on my dad's birthday, and that today is the second day, and he died of cardiac arrest. Home Burial by Robert Frost. He saw her from the bottom of the stairs before she saw him. She was starting down, looking back over her shoulder at some fear. She took a doubtful step and then undid it, to raise herself and look again. He spoke, advancing toward her. What is it you see from up there always? For I want to know. She turned and sank upon her skirts at that, and her face changed from terrifying to dull. He said to gain time, what is it you see? Mounting until she cowered under him. I will find out now. You must tell me, dear. She, in her place, refused him any help, with the least stiffening of her neck in silence. She let him look, sure that he wouldn't see. Blind creature, and a while he didn't see. But at last he murmured, oh, and again, oh. What is it? What? She said. Just that I see. You don't, she challenged. Tell me what it is. The wonder is I didn't see at once. I never noticed it from here before. I must be wanted to it. That's the reason. The little graveyard where my people are, exclamation mark. So small the window frames the whole of it. Not so much larger than a bedroom, is it? There are 3 stones of slate and 1 of marble, broad-shouldered little slabs there in the sunlight. On the side hill, we haven't to mind those, but I understand. It is not the stones, but the child's mound. Don't, 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 she cried. She withdrew, shrinking from beneath his arm that rested on the banister, and slid downstairs and turned on him with such a daunting look. He said twice over before he knew himself, can't a man speak of his own child he's lost? Not you. Oh, where's my hat? Oh, I don't need it. I must get out of here. I must get air. I don't know rightly whether any man can. Amy, don't go to someone else this time. Listen to me. I won't come down the stairs. He sat and fixed his chin between his fists. There's something I should like to ask you, dear. You don't know how to ask it. Help me then. Her fingers moved the latch for all reply. My words are nearly always an offense. I don't know how to speak of anything so as to please you, but I might be taught, I should suppose. I can't say I see how. A man must partly give up being a man with women folk. We could have some arrangement by which I'd bind myself to keep hands off anything special you're a mind to name, though I don't like such things twixt those that love. 2 that don't love can't live together without them, but 2 that do can't live together with them. She moved the latch a little. Don't go. Don't carry it to someone else this time. Tell me about it if it's something human. Let me into your grief. I'm not so much unlike other folks as you're standing there. A part would make me out. Give me my chance. I do think, though, you would overdo it a little. What was it brought you up to think it the thing to take your mother loss of a first child so inconsolably in the face of love? You'd think his memory might be satisfied. There you go sneering now. I'm not. You make me angry. I'll come down to you. God, what a woman, and it's come to this. A man can't speak of his own child that's dead. You can't because you don't know how. If you had any feelings, you that dug with your own hand, how could you? his little grave. I saw you from that very window there, making the gravel leap and leap in air, leap up like that, and land so lightly, and roll back down the mound beside the hole. I thought, who is that man? I didn't know you, and I crept down the stairs and up the stairs to look again, and still your spade kept lifting. Then you came in. I heard your rumbling voice out in the kitchen, and I don't know why, but I went near to see with my own eyes. You could sit there with the stains on your shoes of the fresh earth from your own baby's grave and talk about your everyday concerns. You had stood the spade up against the wall outside there in the entry, for I saw it. I shall laugh the worst laugh I ever laughed. I'm cursed. God, if I don't believe I'm cursed. I can repeat the very words you were saying. 3 foggy mornings and 1 rainy day will rot the best birch fence a man can build. Think of it. Talk like that at such a time. What had how long it takes a birch to rot, to do with what was in the darkened parlor. You couldn't care. The nearest friends can go with anyone to death comes so far short, they might as well not try to go at all. No, from the time when one is sick to death, one is alone, and he dies more alone. Friends make pretense of following to the grave, but before one is in it, their minds are turned and making the best of their way back to life and living people and things they understand. But the world's evil. I won't have grief so, if I can change it. Oh, I won't. I won't. There, you've said it all and you feel better. You won't go now. You're crying. Close the door. The heart's gone out of it. Why keep it up? Amy, there's someone coming down the road. You think the talk is all. I must go. Somewhere out of this house. How can I make you? If you do, she was opening the door wider. Where do you mean to go? First tell me that. I'll follow and bring you back by force. I will. I was thinking as I read this the other day that I have a story of death, about my brother's death, that is difficult to understand by anybody but me. Because I'm the only child that took care of both parents, and my life turned into a metaphysical reality that's set the world on fire, so to speak. But that is the way of it. And I do think men have a very difficult time dealing with death. And if you have a difficult time dealing with death, you do not deal with life. This is Beaty-Coffey of the Ministry of